Hi there. Welcome to Grant on Life. I want to talk about the top 10 things you should know about trauma. First thing, trauma is the single most important, most urgent public health issue on the planet. And those are not my words. That is coming from the leading trauma researchers around the world. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, Dr. Gabor Mate, Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris. All these trauma researchers are separately arriving at the same conclusion that trauma is the single greatest health crisis on the planet. What makes it so urgent and serious? It brings us to our second point. Almost all of our problems are simply symptoms of trauma. Depression, anxiety, ADHD, anger, attachment disorders, chronic pain, chronic illness, acting out, reckless behavior, and on and on. All those things are simply symptoms of trauma. So you can see how it is kind of big. It is literally almost everything, which brings us to our third point. Third most important thing you should know about trauma. It is impossible to have an addiction without having trauma. Do you know someone with an addiction? Hint, the answer is yes. That is also trauma. The first point is becoming clear. Fourth point. This is an important point for parents. Parents must show compassion for themselves. They must show themselves kindness. The problem for parents is, wait, my child has one or more of those symptoms. What have I done? I've caused my child to suffer. Or, wait, my child has one or more of those symptoms? Not my fault. Nothing is ever my fault. I never apologize. My kid just needs to buck up. That's how I made it through life. But the proper response for parents is to show compassion for themselves. Fifth point, the two greatest human needs are connection and authenticity. And we need to establish that before we get to the next points. Humans absolutely must connect with other humans. And we must be able to or allowed to be ourselves, which is hard, even rare. Listen to this quote by E.E. Cummings. To be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best night and day to make you everybody but yourself means to fight the hardest battle which any human being can fight, and to never stop fighting. Wait until you watch my video on literature. It's going to connect with this. It is not easy to be yourself. That is why the first 3 points are facts. Fifth point, what causes trauma? A loss of a sense of physical or emotional safety. That is what causes trauma. That could be a traumatic event, a car crash, combat, physical abuse, sexual abuse. It could be even just witnessing those things. Did you know that in most states, committing domestic violence in front of a child carries harsher penalties than committing it not in front of a child? The legal system recognizes that even just witnessing abuse is devastating on children. The child doesn't even have to see it. Hearing it is enough. But it does not even have to be a shocking moment. It can be a distressing atmosphere that is missing safety. A common cause of that feeling of lack of safety is loss of connection with a parent. When a connection with a parent is never established or it begins to weaken, that causes a sense of a loss of physical or emotional safety for the child. Think about how common it is for a child to experience that kind of a feeling, to be in that kind of a situation, or for a child to lose connection with a parent. Those things happen a lot, and that helps explain why those first 3 points are facts. 7th point, what is trauma? Okay, you know the symptoms of trauma, and you know what causes trauma, but what is trauma? Why do those things cause those symptoms? Here's the definition. Trauma is a loss of connection with yourself. Remember that 5th point? The reason trauma is so devastating is because it affects both of the 2 greatest needs that humans have. Trauma is a loss of connection with yourself. When you experience a shocking event or distressing circumstances, your mind creates adaptations to protect you from those things. And those adaptations can cause you to lose connection with yourself. And then the symptoms of trauma will start absolutely teeing off on you, making your life extremely difficult. Some examples will help explain this. It is not hard to imagine a difficult childhood or a child in a distressing home, is it? It's pretty common. That is because trauma is so common. People with trauma act out of their trauma and cause trauma for their children. Remember that 4th point? So think of a child in a home where there is anger or excessive punishment, or where the child does not have a strong connection with the parent. Or if you like, think of a child in an abusive situation. What happens in those situations is that the child develops adaptations to protect themselves and to try to protect their connection with the parent. The child might become a peacemaker or a people pleaser or a class clown, the funny guy that makes people laugh. The child might act out because at least the parent gives them attention then. Remember, this is instinctive and subconscious adaptations to the situation. The child might drift far away into daydreaming to escape the unbearable pain of loss of connection. The child might make sports their greatest or only priority because that is the only way that the father or the parent interacts with the child. Can you see how all of those adaptations can cause the child to lose connection with themselves? The peacemaker, the people pleaser, the class clown, the jock, all of the daydreamer, all of those children will grow up and continue to play those roles, continue to be the only thing that they know how to be. They will continue to act out the role that their mind created to protect them. But it is not who they are. They're actually something else, or something more than just that one thing. But they never lived as their true self. They never even met their true self, their authentic self. They acted their way through life for the sake of someone else. That is an important point. They will, guaranteed, suffer from one or more of the symptoms mentioned earlier. But guess what? There is good news. Point 8, we can cure trauma. In his book, The Body Keeps the Score, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk identifies a number of therapies that are significantly effective in curing trauma. and causing the symptoms that have been afflicting a person their entire life, their entire adult life, to cause those symptoms to go away. To set people free from the symptoms. One of the treatments he mentions is EMDR, eye movement desensitization. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. That's what the acronym stands for. And that's when a therapist moves their fingers back and forth and the participant follows it with their eyes, and then a highly skilled, trained therapist asks questions and reads the participant's response and asks follow-up questions and pauses when necessary, stops when necessary, those sort of things. Apparently we don't know why it works, we don't know how it works. And there are numerous studies into the why and how of eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR. But we don't yet know, we don't yet understand. But it works. Another therapy is IFS, internal family systems. And as I understand it, it's a group therapy, and where the one person in the group is asked, for example, asked about their trauma, and then asked to pick someone or something in the room to stand in as their father. And they might pick a person, they might pick a sofa. And then they're asked, okay, now where would you like to position it? I'd like to position the sofa standing on its end right in front of me, blocking me from everything. Now pick someone or something in the room to represent your mother. I'd like to pick this lady over here. And where would you like her to be? Curled in a ball in the corner. And so on. And then what would you like to say to your father as a small child? What do you wish you could have said to your father as a small child? What would you say to your father now? What would you say to your mom? Those sort of things. It goes on like that. That apparently has proven very effective. There's psychomotor therapy. And then anything that connects a person back with their body. One of the things that happens in trauma, when you lose connection with yourself, people tend to lose connection with their body. And that's when they get chronic illness, chronic pain, and those sort of things. But dance, yoga, theater, karate, those type of things have proven to be effective in helping treat trauma. There's also neurofeedback is another treatment or therapy that Dr. van der Kolk mentions. Continuing on, point 9. Point 8, we can cure it, we can help heal it. Point 9, we know how to prevent it. First, acknowledge your symptoms, then identify your trauma. Find the event or events in your past that affected you. You probably already know what they are. Seek out one of those treatments. Then, after you've begun to heal your own trauma, the way to prevent trauma in your children is to hold on to your children. That is the title of one of Dr. Gabor Mate's books, Hold On to Your Kids. Build that connection, maintain that connection with your children. 10th point. This video is a shorter version of the longer video I made titled Trauma Affects Us All. In that video I go into great depth on this topic and on these details. So be sure to check out that video. Thank you so much for watching. If you know someone that might be helped by this, be sure to share it with them. Be sure to like or subscribe.